Hi, this is Glenda, and today I will be making soap inspired on a car ride, and it's going to be fragrance with Nature's Garden Loving Spell. I'm not particularly a fan of the fragrance. Now let me find my mask so that I can get started. I do have my oils already melted, and currently, let me check at which temperature they are. They are at 114, 112, oh, maybe less, 110. So they're around 110, 109. The light water is room temperature because I made it a couple days ago. So that's 74 degrees. And I'm just going to add it. And I do need to strain it just to make sure there's nothing in it. I did add salt to it, and in between the salt there were some stuff. I don't know what it was. It looked brown. I don't know if you can see it. So that's what I'm straining it today. So basically I'm going room temperature because once I add the lye to the oils, I'm getting a 105 actually. Well, around 102, 101 temperature. So I'm going to be using this mold, which is really a cardboard box lined with some plastic. And I'm going to blend it with the blender until it reaches light trace. Alright, at the moment I've reached emulsification. It hasn't reached light trace yet, but since I need to add the fragrance and some colorants, I'm going to blend it some more then. And for the fragrance, I need to have 3.75 ounces of fragrance oil. And I really should have used a bigger container for this. It looks like I'm almost barely containing the mix there. But I do have to mix it now, distribute it in between different colors. And so I'm going to use a little bit for like a white strip that's gonna go in between, and then the rest is gonna be like a gray color. And I think this may be enough, but just in case I'm gonna put a little bit more. That should be plenty. And in this mix I'm going to add titanium dioxide that has been dispersed in water. And actually I'm gonna put some of the mix back because some of the titanium dioxide stayed in the container. And so I was able to get a little bit more of what was at the bottom with the oil mix. And then in the next one I have dispersed about a teaspoon of silver pewter mica from Brambleberry in here, and I'm hoping that will give me a grade. But I also going to add clay in it that has this gray color, and I'm also going to use some of the soap butter to help me get the last bits of the silver mica. And I did disperse this mica in oil. I use apricot kernel oil, which is a light oil. And this is the clay, which it just looks like pudding or something. It's very thick. This was 2 teaspoons of bentonite clay. This is the first time that I'm using it, and the main reason that I'm using it is because I bought it almost a year ago and I haven't used it, so I feel finally I found a project in which the color of this clay will go along with. And I disperse these 2 teaspoons of bentonite clay into 5 tablespoons of water. But it does absorb a lot of water, and that's probably why it is so thick. Bentonite clay is also supposed to give you a very smooth finished or sleeping sensation on your soap. So we'll find out if that's true or not. So now I'm going to disperse the colorants. Alright, so this gray color is looking a little bit pukey. I personally do not like it. However, I know that it's going to lighten up. I'm using a lot of light colors in the recipe, of which I'm going to put a link. So it should look better once it's saponifies. It should go lighter, and it should not have this yellowy tint to it. And in the white portion, I'm adding some soap scraps, so it's gonna have a confetti look. And what I did is that I did chop them up so that they will have a sort of a similar consistency throughout the soap, or a uniform, I guess, effect. And I did try to pick blues and purples and pinks for this one, so that they add a bit of color, since my other 2 colors are very neutral. They're white and gray. So I feel they will add a pop of color into it. And I wonder if that's enough. That's probably enough, but I'm just gonna add a tiny bit more just for good measure. Okay, so now comes the fun part. I'm going to move my colorant containers out of the way, and I'm going to add the gray on the container. However, I think I'm gonna blend it some more so it gets a little bit thicker, to perhaps to medium trace. Okay, so I'm ready to pour. Okay. And it's actually quite liquid still. It should be fine. And it's about almost halfway full. So at this point, I'm gonna let it sit for a while, and then I'm gonna, because I want this white portion to be like a layer, and it might be too liquidy for it right now. So I'll pause it and I'll come back after this has hardened up some. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes, and even though it's still a little bit liquidy, I can see that it's setting up. And what I did is that I put this at an angle, and I'm trying to find something to prop it with, but it looks like that's going to slide. So let me find something else. This is better. So I do want it to be at a some weight of an angle, and I don't want this to be a straight line, so I'm using just this spoon to create some irregularity in here. It's not staying. The shapes that I'm making are not really staying, but it is making the surface less uniform. And I do see some bubbles, so I'm gonna try to break them up. Alright, and then I'm just going to start pouring the white portion on top. And as you may have seen in some other videos, you put a spatula or something, as in my case I'm using a spoon, to break the fold so that this layer doesn't go into the first layer, but instead it stays on top of it. So I'll continue on. Now if it does happen to go to the layer underneath, it will not be the end of the world, but it will not be the design that I had in mind either. It sort of reminds me of potato salad at this point. It looks like, if it was a little bit more yellow, it looks like potato salad to me. Maybe I'm hungry, but I didn't think I was. Okay, I'm almost done, so I'm going to add some on this corner so that it reaches all the way to the edge. And let's see, I'm almost done. So whatever little bit I have, I'm just trying to pour it very close to the surface so it doesn't fall heavily into it. And in the meantime, actually, when I was waiting for the first layers to set up, what I did was that I added a little bit of activated charcoal to the rest of the mix, and that gave me a darker gray, and it doesn't have that green tone either, or that yellowish tone. Not that I was very worried about it, but I do like this color better, and I know that because it will lighten up, it will still look good, but I'm going to have, I guess, a lighter gray at the bottom and a darker one on top. And I can see some separation here. I'm not sure if this is the fragrance that is not dispersed properly, or if it is because of the titanium dioxide, which it could be the titanium dioxide, because I did disperse the fragrance with the blender, so it shouldn't be that, I don't think. So now I'm going to add the rest of the batter on top of this one, so it does continue to fill it all the way. And it's tricky to do it with one hand. It's slightly heavy. And at some point I'm going to tilt it the proper way. Okay, I think that on this one I'm going to have some some of the soap on this side is going to have a mix of the white and the gray in it, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm just going to finish now adding the rest of it on this corner, and hopefully it's going to look the way I have it envisioned in my mind. And if not, at least it's, I think maybe the embeds that I'm going to put on top can hopefully make up for it. Alright, so almost done. Just going to scrape the last of it. And then I'm going to wait a couple minutes, and then I'm going to put on top the embeds that I have for this soap. That wasn't meant to happen. What to do, what to do. Alright, so I finished putting the embeds on top, and this is what it looks like. Let me zoom out. This is pretty much, I wanted to do the cars, however, some of the cars got damaged after I had made them, and which is why I needed to use some of my leftover embeds from other projects, which are mainly roses, or these are embeds that I do when I have extra soap dough and I don't have embeds on mine. So you can tell how the mica is not clearly dispersed. There are clumps of it, but I'm hoping that once I unmold it, I will be able to maybe clean it up or just rub it in. But this is it. I will unmold it hopefully tomorrow or the day after, and I'll show you then. So the next morning, which means it was around 8 hours after being poured, I checked on the soap and it seemed like it was ready to come out. So it was actually very easy to make it come out of the cardboard box, and it was also easy to release it from the liner. And the liner is not a one piece, it's like two piece, and you can see where there's a spot where it leaked a little bit, where it joins, but it wasn't too bad. Nothing I couldn't fix with a knife later. And I did check to see how much it was stuck to the soap, but it was actually a very clean release. You know, you can see at the bottom how the soap it is a little bit soft. So I decided to just cut one piece for now, and then let it rest and let it continue to get hard later. But I was really curious on how it looked, so I did go ahead and cut it in half or close to it. It did leave a mark where that seam was, but it's around the same spot where I needed to cut it anyway, so it didn't bother me. And I do have a video. I will be posting it next on the making of this liner. I made it with Pendaflex folders, which are like some filing folders for office supplies. And I decided to use this wooden contraption that my husband and I made to cut it. It just has like a gap in between. This used to be a box like for worms, because I was into growing worms for gardening, but I wasn't very good at it. So I used the pieces of that box to make this, and actually my husband cut the other pieces. So the idea is that I'm going to guide the knife through that gap to keep it straight. And at this point it was actually easy to cut it because it was somewhat soft. Later when I came back in the afternoon, it was difficult to cut it. It had hardened considerably. I use a lot of hard oils and butters on this recipe, so it tends to become hard fast. And I'm sliding the knife so that it doesn't break away on the soap. And that's what it looks like. At this point I'm not very happy with it because this is supposed to look like a scarf that's, you know, blowing in the wind in my mind, or at least that's the inspiration behind it. And the shape of it, this particular bar is not very good, but I did find that some of the other bars were better. I also noticed that the cardboard box, it seemed to have bowed in the middle, so the edges are curved, probably because of the weight of the butter and because it's so long. And that if I use this liner maybe in a wooden box that doesn't give, it'll probably stay straight, but it doesn't bother me. It's not too bad. And if I want to, I can cut the edges and make them look straight. These are probably just gonna be gifts anyway for my nephews and maybe sisters, so they're not picky about what the soap looks like. And at the top you can see that it's a bit darker. That's what the part that had activated charcoal, and the bottom part remained lighter, and it still had this slightly yellow tint to it, but not too bad. So I hope you liked it, and if you did, you can go ahead and subscribe. Thank you for watching.